trick in making my love stick. Watch the trick.
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic, the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might have good bodies or an attractive girlfriend, we know that our on-base percentage is the thing that really counts. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I'm a film critic, and I write about films from my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks. I am joined by my brother and common man co-host, a man who makes all his life decisions based on money, Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy?
Howdy do.
This is
all right.
This is very much we are. You mentioned it right before we went on. We are the Moneyball of podcasts. We're really lowballing it here and hoping to make something spin out of it. By all means, go love on your fancy schmancy podcasts that have all the bells and whistles and maybe a little bit of better audio. But you know what? Sometimes it gives a little character to hear my laundry machine go off in the middle of the podcast. So you're not going to get that with the more professional ones.
Like, oh, okay, there's the Yankees. We get it. You can go watch Yankees. But, I mean, Ben charged me $1 for this. It's a Coke.
It's like
for Dr. Pepper.
Well, our vernacular of Coke. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody we are taking listener choice requests for the month of May. We are doing 4 listener choice episodes. Our first one will be taken by our mother, and then the next 3 are open to requests. Give us your request for what film you want us to cover. You can reach us out on Twitter at CriticCommonPod or email us at criticcommonmanpod@gmail.com. Give us your pick and tell us why we should choose you. We'll give you a special shout out during that episode, and then we will dive into it. Even if we hate the movie, it might be your favorite movie in the world. If you want us to just crap all over it, by all means.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like, if you have a podcast or a website or something you want us to plug or whatever,
we will happily do that.
Yeah,
we can be bought. we are.
We're the Jason Giambi.
Yes. By all means, our unscrupulous agent will sell us out. As we are getting into it, we are in the thick of baseball season beginning, and we wanted to celebrate that by celebrating one of the best baseball movies. We're talking Moneyball. Yeah. Directed by Bennett Miller, written by Steve Zalian and Aaron Sorkin, story by Stan Shervin, based off the book by Michael Lewis. I'm going to get into that a little bit. That's an interesting little story. Based on the book by Michael Lewis, starring Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, Robin Wright, Chris Pratt, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, co-starring Stephen Bishop, Ken Medlock, Casey Bond, Brett Jennings, Bobby Kotick, and Arliss Howard. Opened on September 9, 2011 at the Toronto International Film Festival. Went wide 2 weeks later on September 23rd. Did pretty solid. I was a little surprised at how I expected this movie was a big hit, and it really kind of wasn't. 73.6 million US, 34.6 million international. Not bad by any means. It's not like didn't do.
They doubled their money.
Yeah, doubled their money.
More.
Yeah, 110.2 million on a $50 million budget. Was a massive critical success. 6 Oscar nominations: Best Picture, Best Actor for Brad Pitt, Best Supporting Actor for Jonah Hill, Adapted Screenplay, Film Editing, and Sound Mixing. Lost all 6, kind of unsurprisingly. I'll talk about the 2011 Oscars a little later, but kind of an interesting story to get into. Rotten Tomatoes. Sometimes Rotten Tomatoes is very confusing. Sometimes it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Critics love this movie. 94% from critics, 86% audience. This seems like the antithesis of the type of movie you would expect an audience score to be way better than the critics.
Yeah, but no, I don't understand it.
I mean, it might just be like, I think we're talking about it a little off mic. We're essentially like, some people like sports and some people do not care about sports. Now, it's such a weird thing for guys like us who have been so around sports our whole life. It's kind of like, the Dungeons and Dragons movie out right now. It's like, I could give less of a crap about Dungeons and Dragons.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. I just don't care. Like, and
Right.
and
Well, yeah, and for me, it's like a Marvel or
yeah,
a
yeah,
DC or something. It's like I'm just not like a comic superhero kind of guy, and so it might be a great film, but I just don't care about the subject
you're
matter.
not going to have that.
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
yeah, if you're not into sports, you don't have a love for baseball. I could see how you're just like that. Well, I just don't care about it.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
I can, yeah,
I can
it's
see that.
niche.
It
It's
is
niche.
It is niche, yes. But if you're gonna go niche, this is the nichest way to do this. So
Yep.
I'll get into the plot summary real quick.
Yep.
Not exactly plot heavy. It essentially covers the 2002 season for the Oakland Athletics, specifically their general manager, Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt. They lose the 2001 American League Division Series to the Yankees. And because they were a smaller market team and a smaller budgeted team, even players that break out into the more prominence are immediately pilfered by the bigger teams. Their three big players are all taken by other teams for higher money, and they have a very limited budget. So they're scouting and they're trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel and hopefully make something work. Bean meets Peter Brand, who played by Jonah Hill, a Yale economics graduate who is a big guy on sabermetrics, kind of before is popular. Sabermetrics being more the statistical aspects of baseball. Very impressed. Bean hires Brand to be his assistant general manager. And so they take undervalued players who have been either cast-offs or kind of the byproduct of the traditional way of why baseball, the baseball's antiquated thinking, essentially trying to get all these old, get these players and make them to a coherent team. It really alienates Bean from the rest of his scouting department and the manager, Art Howe, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. But as they go on, it's kind of behind, and then it's the sample size eventually catches up, and the team really buys in, including the stars and everybody involved, and they make some moves. The team starts to turn around, and they actually get into first place, and then they go on a tear of a winning streak. They win 19 in a row, and on their 20th consecutive win, which would be a American League record, Billy, who never watches the games, decides to go watch the game, being up 11-0. They blow the lead, but they win on a walk-off home run by one of the players that Bean specifically recruited. Despite it all, they do lose in the playoffs, and Billy is invited by the Red Sox to be their general manager and given a record contract, but he turns it down due to making a decision for the sake of money. And the A's actually, it's actually kind of it ends on such a sweet kind of like romanticized note. It downplays the fact that it's kind of a sad ending. Like
it is.
And the Red Sox owner, who says, "Man, you're a revolutionary for this. You're doing exactly what we need to do. Please come here and do this." They're like, "No, we're not going to do that." He hires another guy who does that, and they win the World Series a couple times, like using those exact methods. So, but Billy Beane still a very successful man on his own. So, this is not like a movie that's going to hold your hand through baseball. Like,
no, it's not going to teach you baseball. You need to come in knowing. I mean, it's like, it's kind of like, oh gosh, I don't know, like some World War II movies, like Saving Private Ryan. It's like, we're not explaining world history leading up to this moment where the Allies have to storm Normandy's beach. We're not going to go through World War II history for the opening of Dunkirk. It's like, you need to be caught up, ready to go, like shoes on, and let's go running. What I mean?
And it's one of those, and it doesn't, like maybe that's one of the alienation parts. It's like, well,
Mhm.
it's like I went in like I know a little bit about baseball, but I don't really know like the ins and outs and all that kind of fun stuff. And then they start talking about sabermetrics, and you're just like, whoa, like on base percentage.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the on base
Yeah.
percentage is dumbed down as much as an audience can be dumbed down, and it's still they don't even get into like
Yeah.
the high level of all this kind of stuff. They're really on the base,
Yeah.
but still, this is
ERAs and yeah.
I mean,
Baseball is a very static driven sport.
very, very much so. Probably more than any other
More
sport. Absolutely.
more than football or basketball.
It's
Yeah.
it's very much like football and basketball. You know, they have their, I guess
Yards run and
I guess a lot of people, especially baseball in general, a lot of people's knock on baseball is it's slow and it's
Mhm.
contemplative and there's a lot of time in between. Well, that's why there is all this. Like
Yeah.
you don't go to a football game and keep a scorecard. Like it's
Right.
just it's a very like it's a dorky sport.
Yeah.
It's a geek sport, and this is essentially the
Yeah.
way to
Kind of.
yeah, it's a dork sport.
Yeah,
like
it is. It is now that you mention it.
It's a bunch of
Like-
dweebs. I mean, they're these men at the peak of their athletic ability, but at the same time, it's kind of physics wise. You don't really think about it in those terms. But I mean, we talked about it a little bit when we talked about in our Robin Hood and Waterworld episode when we were talking about Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Few movies give you a bigger baseball boner than this one, man. It's
Yeah.
like it's you can tell it's made by people who do care about baseball and love baseball.
Yes. This was made, by people who have a love for baseball. And I mean, whenever we rewatched it, like my wife is jumping on trying to figure out when we can go to the next Rangers game.
Exactly.
Because we were just talking about just the sound of a back cracking or, the ball hitting the glove, just and I can watch movies like this and just smell the fresh cut grass.
Absolutely.
And hear everything and like, I don't know. I would describe this movie as a love letter to baseball.
I realized it when I was kind of writing the outline for this. This is a romance movie.
Mhm.
It's a love story, and
Absolutely.
it's the ups, the downs, but the difference is there's nothing you can do to fall out of love with baseball in this case.
Mhm.
It's just like it is killing me. It's driving me insane. It doesn't matter. This made me remember.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to not be romantic about baseball.
That's the line. That's the line.
I don't know why.
That's the right one. It's the perfect line that encapsulates how you feel about it. And I get people's passion for other sports, but it's just
sure.
I mean, it's something with the history, the length, the constant pressure of it. It's such a game that plays a kid. We could just,
and I mean, there's so much history behind baseball.
Absolutely.
It was directly involved in civil rights movements, integration.
Absolutely.
There was the giant, congressional hearings about doping and
Black Sox
everything.
Gambling. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pete Rose.
Yes. It reaches all the Black Sox, Pete Rose, all those kind of things. You can like set your time. You can remember where you are based on like me and you will never forget the McGuire Sosa times.
Right.
It's just
Barry
like
Bonds.
Barry Bonds, all that kind of stuff. That's something that you all get wrapped up in. And obviously,
Everyone was just fucking roided up and just smashing shit, man. I'll be honest. I thought it was a fun time.
I agree. I'm on you. I'm with you too.
It was entertaining.
Like, I'm very much on the side of who cares? Everybody's juicing. I didn't think about it until you said it. You're talking about being romantic about like how this movie encapsulates that. How about that awesome little twinkling music of just little guitar music sprinkled throughout, and just the shivers you get with it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so we've done a couple Brad Pitt movies throughout this show so far. You catch me on the right day, I think this might be his best performance. I mean,
it's up there.
It's really up there, and it's one of those things where you're like, man, the guy is Billy Bean does not look like Brad Pitt, and nobody looks like Brad Pitt.
No one looks. Yeah, I was fixing to say.
But I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things.
There's one guy that looks like Brad Pitt.
Yes, exactly.
Brad Pitt.
And it's funny just because it's like, I remember the first time I watched this movie, and whenever that first game, and he goes in and starts working out, I'm like, was this the only reason he took this job, just to be in there? So it's like, okay, I get to work out in the middle of a movie. Cool. Like, that's just,
yeah.
We go from there. But I mean, it's the Brad Pitt role that I'll probably always be like, this is the Brad Pitt movie. Like, yeah, this is the one you show your parents. Your parents are on, like, it's not like, with Fight Club, they're like, okay, that's the kind of man machismo mo. It's just like, okay, well, Thelma and Louise is more the lady side. This one, everybody can get on board with, like, this is the Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
For a long time, he was very much like, oh, he's just the heartthrob. He's just a good looking guy and all that kind of, this is like, no. He's not relying on any of that. He's not even relying all that much on charm, though he is charming. No. He just makes everything work with what he's doing, and has that level of confidence and belief in everything that's happening.
He does something in this movie, which I've seen him do in other movies, which I think is so great. Maybe just personalizes him. He's got to have something about eating.
Yeah, he's always eating
or
something.
Dipping or smoking. Yeah, or like not specifically this movie. I'm saying drinking something or whatever. There's I don't know. Like, I remember Ocean's 11.
He's always eating something. Yeah.
Yeah, he was eating the whole time, and I don't know.
See,
I don't know. He's got a strange charisma to him.
It's funny. So
something's working for him.
I want to talk about that one scene where they're trying to get Ricardo Rincon, where they're at the trade deadline. That's the scene I think of when I think of this movie, because it's that scene physically, the things he does physically is really interesting to me. Like, and like you said, when he's eating, he's got it's a coffee filter full of popcorn. He grabs a handful and just shoves it in, and all the while he's thinking about something else. Call comes, and he's halfway through chewing, spits it out, takes the phone call, and just like it's like physical comedy. And he's going through all this stuff, and then when they finally get the deal, high fives, slamming the phone. Like it's much like, it's not just, oh, sit back and be this guy. He's like, no, I'm going to put my whole shit into this.
Oh yeah. It's like, what was the scene? Whenever they fire Pena from first base.
Oh yeah. Whenever they trade Pena away. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's talking to Pete, Jonah Hill's character, and he, like, it's first thing in the morning, he gets coffee and just scarfs a Twinkie.
Yes, just
and he's like, who's gonna tell him? He's like, I'll tell him. and he's just
unwraps him. I got it. Like it's like it's such a strange little quirk that. Well, in other words, he seems so busy. It's like he's like, I got to eat wherever I can, and because he's always on the move, and it's not even necessarily all physically, like he's always doing something, but his brain's always moving too. So you're like, I'm trying to figure out all the angles. He's like, well, I got something to eat. It's like, yeah, I'll be halfway through this Twinkie as I got to go and take care of this and all that. And like you said, he's dipping, he's spitting, he's never still. He's like a shark. He's yes, he's moving forward. He's like, I'm going forward. Momentum is going this direction, and I'm going to make this work. So the supporting performances about this, the supporting performances in this movie are interesting because give me your thoughts on Jonah Hill. I'm in this movie specifically. What is
in this movie? I think he nails it.
I mean, he does too. And
I think he's traditionally a goofy comedic actor,
big and broad.
Yeah. This one is I mean, it's a dramatic role. Yes. Are there elements of comedy and levity? Of course.
Yeah.
I think he adapted quite well.
Yes.
To the role.
Yes.
You know, maybe something outside of his wheelhouse, but I think he adapts well, and
his Oscar nomination was a bit of a surprise just because I guess he didn't have the precursor attention, but I mean, it's one of those things you're like going in, you're like, Jonah Hill's going to be this in this movie, and then you watch the movie and you're like, oh, he's dialed everything way back, and he's a really kind of quiet, insular character. And he's like, no, you're going to be of all the dorks, you're the main dork. You're the dorkiest of the dorks. And you're going to be the Yale economics guy that loves baseball. And you're like, yeah. And he makes it all work, and he gets it a part of it. And like the scene at the end where he is showing Billy the video of the guy hitting the home run, the fat guy hitting the home run. It's like his kind of like assurance and relaxation of it all is the reason it all kind of works. It's like, you don't really consider that as a Jonah Hill thing, but I think that's one of the best things he does in the movie. He's just like narrating this little subtle thing. And then that kind of the impetus to be like, how do you not be romantic about baseball?
Right. Something I really like about it, even though he's an analyst, okay, he's a numbers guy. That's it. It's stats.
It's cold, hard facts. Yes.
Completely statistically driven job. But there's lots of points where he's got a baseball.
Yeah. And he does. He's just
he's fiddling with this baseball, and like in his office, there's
watching tape,
baseball pitchers, and he's watching tape.
Wearing a hat. Yeah.
He subtly conveys this deep, this romance for baseball. I don't know how else to put it.
It really is.
Even though he's a numbers guy, he got an econ degree from Yale, but he applies this to something that he really gives a shit about.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, you hire this guy at a CPA at H&R Block, he would do just fine.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't give a shit.
He wouldn't.
It would be punching numbers, getting his paycheck, going home, and that's it. This he's passionate about, he's romantic about, and he cares.
And it says like
it's a nice mix between the business and the passion. I
told you to look to do analysis on 30 players. How many did you do? 48. Wait, I did 51.
I think he said 3 players.
Oh, 3. It's like I did 48. I did
47.
Actually,
I did 52. I don't know why I lied.
It's one of those things you get, talked into it. Yeah, like
you get that momentum going,
yes.
and you actually care about it, and yeah,
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. This is workplace workplace viability. Like if you love your job, you're not working. Like it's very much a stealth like pro stay at your job job. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, the kind of watching this movie again, you're like, wow, Chris Pratt, like it's kind of fun, and it's just kind of have fun. Chris Pratt, and I think he's really good in this. He's Hatterberg is a quieter, kind of calmer character, and there's some really cool things I really like with him and his wife. After whenever they come up and offer him coffee, or whatever, and then as soon as they leave, like, I'm back in baseball, and they're like hugging each other, and you're like, oh, it's got that other thing going. Like he's got another life. It's a nice part of it, and the wife being a piece of it. I have a theory on Chris Pratt. I think he is ruined as an actor these days.
Why is that?
Chris Pratt, for a long, long time, was a struggling actor. He was in little things here and there. This was one of the bigger things he was in. He gets in this, and he's in Parks and Recreation on.
Yeah,
he's hilarious on Parks and Recreation.
Oh man.
He's one of the 1,000 character actors in Zero Dark 30. He's one of the SEALs.
Yep.
And then he goes to the Marvel and becomes Guardians of the Galaxy, and that makes him a superstar.
Yeah.
And he's not ruined because he got famous. I think he's ruined because he struggled to be famous so long. Mm-hmm. And now he will never go back to challenging himself because he's comfortable. And now he's lazy.
That's a good point. And look at Jurassic Park.
Yes.
The latest Jurassic Park. He was phoning it in. He was like, big budget movie. Everyone did. No one. The dinosaurs didn't even try to act.
I don't know if y'all know this at home, but Jurassic World Dominion is the reason we have this podcast.
Yeah.
We just decided like we got to talk about how crappy that movie was.
Yeah. I can see your point. Yeah. And he's getting comfortable. He's the guy with the Yankees contract. He's not the guy at the Oakland A's.
Yes. And I think, whenever you have, sometimes like Brad Pitt got really good at this for a while whenever he figured it out. The other person who does this is Colin Farrell. Like he was a struggling actor. He got really famous. And he had the ups, and then he's like, okay, I need to reassess what I'm doing, and essentially, and then kind of readjust. And now he's probably better than he's ever been as far as an actor wise. Chris Pratt has not really had the failures. I mean,
right.
We consider Jurassic World Dominion a failure, but it made so much fucking money. And so he can't, so he's just looking at bottom line type things. And you kind of look at, I say the Rock, Dwayne Johnson is really along the same lines. Like he wanted to be a movie star so bad. And then whenever it worked, he stopped trying anything that was outside of being interesting. Like, not taking chances.
Actually, we watched San Andreas the other night.
Yes.
And it's just like, dude, you're outside your wheelhouse. Like, I love him in Jumanji.
Yes, that's a great example. He works
there, like, it's action and all this stuff.
The Fast and Furious movies you taught me into. Like, okay, sure.
But like dramatic roles, it's like, nah.
You're not going to try them anymore.
You used to be a pro wrestler, so let's calm down, fella.
There was a movie called Be Cool from 2004, which was a sequel to Get Shorty. And John Travolta is a bunch of people are in that movie, but they're in the music industry and trying to break into that. And Dwayne Johnson is in that, and he is playing a flamboyantly gay dancer, and it's a comic role. He is hilarious.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Because there's no ego, and he checks it, and he goes into it, and he's like, this is exactly what it is like. If you make this movie today and cast Chris Pratt as Scott Hatterberg, it's an entirely different performance. He's not going to cheapen himself to have this kind of vulnerability and like
to be a broke down, washed up former baseball player that's suffering from chronic injuries and struggling to pay the bills, wife and kid at home, you know.
And that's all I want like, I get you want to be a movie star, that's fine, I understand that, but I mean, being able to check yourself and have that ability. He lost all the ability because he became a movie star. So
he's the guy that can tame raptors now.
Yes,
and it's like you need to
magic fingers. This is all it takes.
Watch out, raptor.
No.
I've tried that with a vicious pit bull. It didn't work.
So I mean, it's funny watching this movie again. You're just like, I've never seen Philip Seymour Hoffman be so anonymous in a movie. It's almost strange. Like, whenever Philip Seymour Hoffman's in a movie, you're just like, oh, okay, let's step back and let this guy cook. And Art Howe is such a quieter. He's playing Art Howe. Art Howe is not the most boisterous man in the world. But I mean, at the same time, you're like, man, it's almost a waste of Philip Seymour. I know you're a big Philip Seymour Hoffman guy.
I am.
Yeah.
I love him. But like you were saying, like, an actor's ability to check their own ego and play the fucking role.
Great point.
Instead of being them. He does that. He's like, okay, I don't have to be this big role. This is my job. I'm going to play this job as best I can.
That is an excellent point. And we all know Philip Seymour Hoffman can come like a firecracker and steal a movie from under you. But by all means, he comes in and he's like, nope, I'm this nice steady role. This is my role. And it like makes it all work.
He does a great job.
Yes.
Like, I mean, crap. It's such a waste. Damn it, heroin.
Yes, exactly. He's on the list. He's on the short list of him. Like, man, such potential and such wasted, like he wasn't that old. And you're just like, it sucks so bad. Yeah, it sucks so
well. And I mean, he was so diverse as well as like.
We always talk about Along Came Polly. Man,
he introduced me to the term sharp, which is when you try to fart but you shit a little. We've all been there.
So somebody
just put a name on it.
Somebody made the argument that Philip Seymour Hoffman is actually a better actor than Daniel Day-Lewis. The argument being that Philip Seymour Hoffman could be Daniel Plainview. Daniel Day-Lewis could never be in Along Came Polly.
Exactly.
It's a great point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like he can be in Along Came Polly and yuck it up next to Ben Stiller.
Mm-hmm.
But like, have you ever seen In Cold Blood?
Yes, in Capote.
Yeah. Yes. Capote.
Yes. Yeah.
Based on that book and everything. I mean, very serious role.
Yes. Shame.
God damn it, heroin.
This is a good segue. Director Bennett Miller, he's only made 3 movies. This was his second of 3. His first movie was Capote. He directed Philip Seymour Hoffman to that Oscar win. Excellent film, Capote. Then he directed this, and then he directed the film Foxcatcher. Did you ever see Foxcatcher?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. What a you want to talk about the love for baseball and the wow, how dark can wrestling get?
Yeah.
Good movie. I'm not sure it's one I want to revisit much.
No, yeah, that's kind of the thing. Very good movie, but it's kind of weird and dark, and gets yeah.
But Bennett Miller is kind of like the Daniel Day-Lewis of directors as far as scarcity. Like he'll do something, go away for a couple of years, do something. Wow, that was cool. Go away for a couple of years, do something. He's attached. That's all he's done so far. There's those 3 movies. Does a lot of music video directing. The next thing he has on his list, I don't know if it's actually going to happen. It's the 1000th adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Who knows? It's not even cast, so who knows if it even happened. It might be a rumor. Regardless, brief but awesome history. Real quickly, I want to talk about the 2011 Oscars. The Moneyball was nominated for Best Picture. This was a weird Oscar year because in the moment, whenever all the nominations come out, you're like, yeah, that makes sense as far as everything that's nominated. But like with hindsight, you look at this list and you're just like, man, why didn't Moneyball win everything? Because it's the only one that has any sort of kind of the legacy of all the rest of the movies are by no means as clean as the rest of them. The winner is The Artist, a movie almost forgotten immediately after it won Best Picture. It's notable because it was silent. It was essentially a silent film. Good film, but it
sounds fun.
It wasn't bad. The Descendants, one of the George Clooney movies that you're like George Clooney in Hawaii with daughters. It's okay. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, an terrible movie, terrible film. Trying to cash in on 9/11 nostalgia.
Yeah, one of few Tom Hanks floppers.
I wrote about it a couple of years ago, and my God, that movie sucks. It was real bad. The Help, which is probably has one of the better like remembered reputations, but that still gets a little dicey as far as the things that movie gets into. Hugo, maybe one of the lesser known Scorsese movies. It's actually a kids movie. It's fine, but by no means on the top of Scorsese stuff. Midnight in Paris, which is a Woody Allen movie. We won't talk about that. The Tree of Life, which is a Terrence Malick, like an art house movie. Good. Some people really ride for that. It's not my favorite, and then War Horse. I'm not sure. Did you ever see War Horse?
Yeah.
War Horse is fine.
Hidalgo, right?
Yes.
Or was it Appaloosa?
Appaloosa, who knows? Horse related.
Yeah, Mustang.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look at that list, you're just like, come on, Moneyball's far and away the best of those. And
well, yeah, I was looking at this list and I'm like, nomination, Best Picture, Lost to the Artist. Never seen that.
Yeah.
Don't even know what it is, really. Best Actor, lost to Jean Dujardin.
Jean Dujardin, who's the lead actor and the artist. He essentially made this, and then he goes back to France and never makes movies in English again, essentially.
Don't know it. Yeah. Best Supporting Actor, lost to Christopher Plummer.
That's Beginners. That's a good win because Christopher. I like. We all like. Nobody hates
Christopher Plummer's good. Yeah.
It's not like.
But I don't know that movie at all.
Now that being said, one of the other nominees, Nick Nolte in Warrior. I know you love Warrior.
Nick Nolte.
Like,
I know Nick Nolte, but I mean, it's like, what?
And then Max von Sydow, the old grandpa from every Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close, the guy who doesn't say anything, the guy who writes on a piece of paper. Like, it's like there's and then like adapted screenplay, The Descendants. It's like The Descendants doesn't have the reputation it should. The sound mixing nomination's interesting. Like sound mixing, like I guess Crack of the Bats, it's not exactly the type of movie you think a sound mixing nomination.
Yeah.
I like that film editing nomination, though. I'm not sure if you've seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
No.
that's an unimpeachable win. That win's a great win.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
I just haven't seen it.
I mean, but it's a strange. It's every once in a while there are years whenever the Oscars are just like, we got this, and then after 5 years you're just like, man, they screwed up everything, and this was kind of one of those years. Like, just almost across the board, they messed up just all around. But I mean, you can't win them all. What are you going to do? I know you don't. I know you don't care about the Oscars as much as I do, but I probably land on the fact that this probably should have been Brad Pitt's Oscar. He should have won Best Actor, and a lot of people kind of talk themselves into it being the case. Like, oh, Brad Pitt could win this. It's like, it's not going to happen. But I mean,
I think everyone in this movie is they're subtly brilliant.
Yes. There's not a
Jonah
whole lot
Hill,
of flash.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, Brad Pitt. Like, yeah, it's nothing, it's not action packed. It's hell, there ain't even all that much baseball playing that goes on in it.
Not really. And then, I mean, even the athletes, these athletes were pretty good too. Even the athletes were really well played. Like, knowing how
the guy who plays David Justice.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Yep.
The guy who plays Ron Washington, former Rangers manager. That's Brent Jennings. I really liked him. The scouts. By the way, in that room, half of the scouts were actual scouts.
The guy with the hearing aids has to be an old one, right?
Who's Fabio? That guy? Yes, he was an actual scout. Yes, that guy.
No, I like that line where they're arguing about stuff, and he goes, "Listen, he's the GM. We make suggestions. He makes decisions." It was like an old school. Y'all need to shut up and let this is the boss's room, not ours.
That was a real nice, like, hey, the boss is in charge. We need to shut up and listen to the boss. I agree. And then, okay. I don't want to dog on her too much, but every time we get Billy Bean's daughter, this movie crashes to a screeching halt. Like, like the song thing. I hate the song interlude when he's crying. Mm-hmm. I know it's sweet and like, we got to give Billy Bean some more context. But I'm just like, I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I don't know. It's
she doesn't do a bad job. It's just I didn't know if the movie needed it.
I don't know. It gives it a bit of context. I will say in one particular scene, she goes, "Are you gonna get fired?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No." And like he puts her back on the plane to go, like, back to mom or whatever. And he's like, "Hey, your dad's not in trouble." Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say the daughter only serves just to show that he had a lot on the line.
Yeah. There are stakes. It essentially gives Billy Bean additional stakes. That's a good point. That's a good way to put it.
It's not like if he screws this up, it's not a career screw up.
Yeah.
Completely. It's also a personal one. And
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So I feel like she adds some context.
Yeah. But that's a good point. I'll give her the break. Good explanation of that one. I like that side of it. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back. All right, we are back. It is time for my favorite segment. It is Bull for a Dumbass. Every week I go for the filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. Today we are talking about the supporting actor nominee from this film, a man we talked about a little bit earlier, Mr. Jonah Hill, much known for his comedic roles. We will get into that as we go. I didn't ask. So you talked about you like Jonah Hill in this movie. Do you like him as an actor generally?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, yeah.
I mean, hit or miss.
It's hard not to think of him as the guy from Superbad, I guess, sometimes.
Yes. That's a good,
know what I mean?
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. It's kind of that kind of
he
mentality.
almost typecast himself,
Almost, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think he's a good actor, but
he made his first role in the film 2004 film I Heart Huckabees, a really cool, goofy film. I'm not going to include that one, but the next year, probably the first time you ever saw him in anything, he was an eBay customer trying to buy shiny boots in the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot he was in that.
He's in it for a minute and a half. He's like
just awkward.
It's just awkward. Wants to buy shiny boots. Like, yeah, so silly. But the next year makes a couple appearances in a couple small movies. Has this movie called Accepted, where it's kind of he's like the premier funny fat guy in a college movie. Won't include that one. In 2007, reuniting with Judd Apatow, the director of the 40-Year-Old Virgin. How about Knocked Up?
Yeah.
He plays a character named Jonah, and I'm pretty sure alongside. So in Knocked Up, he plays Jonah alongside Jason Segel playing Jason, Jay Baruchel playing Jay, and Martin Starr playing Martin. So essentially all four of those guys, I think, were playing pretty much themselves. But regardless, I like him in Knocked Up. He has one of the better lines in that movie.
Yeah. In hindsight, that movie is just like a bunch of dudes and one of them knocks a chick up.
Exactly.
And then they got
I haven't seen Knocked Up in a really long time. I used to really love it. I haven't seen it in a while. That same year, like you said, playing it's kind of the role he'll always probably be known for before and after Superbad.
Yeah.
You like Superbad?
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
It
tries to go a little deeper than just being funny.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that works. As the funny things, I really like, the goofy funny things, like the veiny dicks he draws, and all that kind of the McLovin stuff. All that stuff's great. All that, whenever they go a little deeper than that, I'm just it kind of loses me a bit.
Right.
So 3 for 3 so thus far, not surprising. The next year, kind of the thing he started to do after Superbad, he's like, I'm going to be kind of the featured supporting character in a movie, just be funny the entire time, and that's my entire personality. How about Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Yeah.
Really funny in that one too.
Yeah. Funny. Funny ass movie.
Just went 6 to midnight. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I know we're talking about Jonah Hill, but Mila Kunis in that.
Mila Kunis and Kristen Bell are both great looking in that movie. I mean, what? and not to mention kind of the schlub of Jason Segel in the middle. You're just like, man, I want him. Like, that's the dream. Just this like, oh, these two beautiful women fighting over you. It's like, oh, tough life to be in.
Yep.
The next year, I don't know if you. I'm not going to be surprised if you haven't seen it. Have you seen the film Funny People with Adam Sandler?
No.
It's one of Adam Sandler's attempts to kind of subvert his Adam Sandler-iness. He's a comedian who gets a leukemia diagnosis. And so it's kind of like, oh, you're Adam Sandler and everybody knows you as Adam Sandler type. But he much more serious. It's an interesting movie. I don't know if necessarily good. And Jonah Hill, again, one of those kind of premiere, like, oh, he's in this movie as well, type things. I'm not surprised you haven't seen it. So have you seen the sequel to Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Get Him to the Greek?
No,
it's not bad. It seems like it's one of those movies that's probably a little better than it has a right to be. Take these two characters from Forgetting Sarah Marshall and put them in their own movie. You're like, well, that doesn't seem like it's going to work. And it's entertaining. It's fun. It's not bad.
What is it called?
Get Him to the Greek. It follows Jonah Hill's character. I don't know if it's the same character. It's a different character. So it's Jonah Hill, and he get the rock star from Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and he has to kind of babysit him and get him to a concert.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, it's not bad. It's solid. So in 2010, he's still very much just like doing a lot of like he's the voices and a voice in How to Train Your Dragon and Megamind. There's this really cool movie called Cyrus, where Cyrus is an interesting movie. Cyrus, I'm not going to include it on here, but so Marissa Tomei is getting remarried to John C. Reilly, which again, John C. Reilly somehow able to make this happen. This guy living everybody's life. And Jonah Hill is her son, and he essentially is just like, no, I don't trust this, and tries to get in between the relationship. So interesting film. It's more of like a serious comedy, but like tragic comedy, but it's
right.
But interesting film. But then 2011 makes Moneyball, gets his Oscar nomination, and then the next year 21 Jump Street.
I haven't watched it.
It's
I know of it. I just haven't.
So you've seen the Brady Bunch movie, right? They made a Brady Bunch movie in the 90s, and essentially what they did is they said, okay, we're going to make a Brady Bunch movie, but what we're going to do, we're going to take the Brady Bunch from the 70s and put them in 1996 or 5 or whenever it is. And then they're like, this is stupid. Why everybody's like these idiot kids, and it's essentially a parody on itself. And 21 Jump Street essentially is like, we're going to take the idea of 21 Jump Street, put it in today's world, and the entire time say, this is stupid. And it really works. And Channing Tatum is really funny, and Ice Cube is, as their boss, is really funny, and Jonah Hill's really funny. I really enjoy that movie. Is also makes a cameo in Django Unchained in 2012.
Really?
One of the KKK members, whenever they're talking about bags, it's like anybody have an extra bag? And it was like, because they're about to go it's just a little cameo. He's in it for 2 seconds, but fun little thing. Okay, so a different type of movie.
I love that scene though. Whenever that guy is like, I can't see fucking shit out of this, and it was like the one guy like whose wife made it was like, Martha worked real hard at that.
It's like we can all agree we like the effort. It's
they're about to go on this KKK raid,
so goofy. The next year, very metatextual, playing himself. How about This Is the End? Do you remember This Is the End with all the actors from these guys, all the stoners?
Yes.
At the end of the world.
Yeah. What's his name? James Franco,
and, Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen, Jane Baruchel, Danny McBride, Michael Cera. Cera is hilarious in that movie. Emma Watson's there for some reason. Yeah, interesting. I like that movie. It's it kind of wears thin after a while, but it's not bad.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Same year, 2013, gets his second Oscar nomination. Somewhat of a surprise, a movie I secretly am not a big fan of, The Wolf of Wall Street.
I actually haven't seen it.
It's one of those things where people, for some reason, really just decided that they wanted to hitch their wagon to The Wolf of Wall Street being incredible. And I can never really get on the same page. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And by a lot, I mean, it's in every sense of the word. It's excess and silly and shouty and 3 hours long. I don't necessarily love the Leonardo DiCaprio performance. Jonah Hill is going for it. He eats a fish in the movie. He eats a goldfish. Like it's a lot.
I've done it. No, I haven't.
He doesn't.
I like fish.
I'm not sure. I don't necessarily think that Jonah Hill is bad in the movie. I wouldn't give him an Oscar nomination, but it's a lot of a movie.
Yeah, I almost like, I think the reason I haven't watched that is like Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of one of those that like he puts his star power there and everyone thinks it's going to be magnificent. And don't get me wrong, he's great in some stuff, but it's like, well, you can't just put him in something and just it's going to be a hit, you know.
The Wolf of Wall Street, everybody was like, man, the physical comedy and all this kind of stuff. And he has this like big scene where he's on Quaaludes and he crawls to his car. And I'm like, and everybody's like, oh, he's such dedication. And I always I'm like, okay, well, where's Jim Carrey's Oscar nomination for Liar Liar? Like what he does in the bathroom.
He slammed his head in the toilet.
Exactly. Like it's the same. Like you can't.
What are you doing? I'm beating the shit out of myself.
Exactly. It's like, oh, what? He's just like, no. Like it's the same type of performance. And people were just sort of like, no, this is a revolution. It's like, it wasn't. And I disagree on Wolf of Wall Street on almost every other people when they talk about how much they love Wolf of Wall Street, but that's just me. Anyway. So 2014, back to more sequels and more voice acting for Jonah Hill. Did the Lego Movie, How to Train a Dragon 2, did 22 Jump Street. 2016, have you seen the film War Dogs? Tim and Miles Teller, and they become arms dealers. It's based on, there's a couple people who are like, you know what's really good? War Dogs, and other people who are like, that thing's a piece of crap. Don't waste your time. So I'm not surprised. War Dogs doesn't have much of a history. I actually directed a movie in 2018, a movie called Mid-90s about a kind of autobiographical about being like a skateboarder and whenever you're a kid in the 90s. But I have not seen it. Does more sequel voice work. 2021, your favorite movie, Don't Look Up. I did not like Don't Look Up. Yeah.
Yes, I've seen it.
I know you've seen it. I don't like it either.
Don't.
It's just because you're right about a subject doesn't mean you can't be still an asshole. Like right. The director is essentially like, look how smart I am, everybody. Don't you realize how smart I am? It's like shaking you like, I'm so intelligent about this. It's like, stop it. Calm down.
Yeah, no one cares.
No one cares. Yes, exactly. So he was incredibly annoying in that movie. I did not like him in that movie. And then just came out a couple weeks ago on Netflix. I haven't seen it, but a film with Eddie Murphy, kind of a Guess Who's Coming to Dinner movie. You People. He is marrying a black girl, and he goes to meet his parents, and the parents are Eddie Murphy and Nia Long, and I don't think it goes well. I think that's the entire point of I think he's a podcaster, by the way. So, but does not. I did not get very good reviews for it, but it is out on Netflix right now. Haven't heard really anybody say they enjoyed it. Kind of hit or miss when it comes to Jonah Hill as far as like the stuff he does. Like some of the stuff pretty good. Like, and I don't even necessarily think it's an aspect of like, oh, Jonah Hill's too popular or too much of a star. I think he knows his place on the totem pole, and then tries to sneak in and do these kind of things. I don't know if he has anything new coming up these days. I don't think so.
Yeah, I was fixing to ask you, does he have something in the lineup? Or
he probably might be. Let me see here. So he's got one thing on his upcoming. It is a voice performance in a movie that does not have a title. So that's it. All he has right now. So I mean, I'm curious for him to try more straight dramatic, like more Moneyball than like I don't than anything else. I'd be curious to see him try to stretch things out without having to rely on the humor.
he's an interesting guy. I would be interested in seeing where he goes from here.
Yeah, really interesting. I agree. A very interesting guy. You only got 6 out of 12 on Jonah Hill.
Well, that's
started-
a 50.
You started 4 and 4. No Funny People, Get Him to the Greek, 21 Jump Street, War Dogs, You People, or The Wolf of Wall Street. The Wolf of Wall Street's probably the one I was the most surprised at, but like you said, it's just I get it. Not my favorite. So 6 out of 12. All right, buddy. Think it's about that time.
Yeah, you know it, man. Hey, step into my office. And like Billy Bean,
You want me
I'm
to close
just
the door?
gonna shoot you straight.
Yep.
You're in the hot box.
Each episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's just trivia, sometimes it's not. What you got for me?
All right, fat Jonah Hill or skinny Jonah Hill?
Good question. Have you seen his IMDb picture? His picture
No.
on IMDb? He is skinny in IMDb.
Really?
But I mean, it's like that's not the Jonah Hill everybody knows. It's not necessarily a bad picture or anything. It's just I don't know. I kind of land more on the fat Jonah Hill just because I guess that's more what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Fat, clean Jonah Hill, if that makes any sense. Like this level, as opposed to like there's like greasy fat Jonah Hill, which I'm not a big fan of. But I mean, he's thinner, and 21 Jump Street still funny. I kind of land on the fatter side, but who cares? Be what you want to be. Be fat. Trying to think about it.
I got distracted.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you land on
I had a brief guess.
Do you land on the fat or thin Jonah Hill part? There's not
I
a whole
just
lot
think-
of thin.
No, I just think from like his early comedic roles.
I think so
It's
too.
just what you're used to.
Yeah.
You
Like
know what I
Freddie,
mean?
Sarah Marshall,
Yeah.
Super Bad. That's what.
Like the awkward fat guy that,
Yep,
you know.
Yep. I agree.
It's like I'd be friends with him.
Sure.
Seems like a good time.
Yeah. Right. Keeps drawing dicks all over the place.
All right. Sorry.
No problem.
All right. Do you know roughly the percentage of MLB players that are lefties?
Ooh, this is a good question. I'm gonna guess because of how many players are coveted as left-handers in baseball, it's a little higher than I would expect. My guess would be 30%.
Yeah. Last I checked, 7%.
7. Wow, that's way worse than I thought.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I like it seems like there's so many left-handers, but I guess, man, just wow. That's
I guess they just get like more attention, or I don't know, the versatility of them or something. But it's like and like southpaw pitchers. I mean,
yeah.
they get more attention.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
the guys that can be switch hitters and shit like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, I don't know. They're unusual.
They are unusual, and you know, you think of certain things like there's a lot of left-handed first basemen just because of
Yep.
of the way, you know, that kind of thing. And
Direction. It's
yeah, and you know, I would imagine even of the left-handers, the majority of the left-handers in baseball are probably pitchers. I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
So that makes sense. I didn't realize it was that small. That's surprising.
Yeah.
I thought they'd
Yeah.
have a lot more.
Yeah. I don't know. I am so right-handed
Me too.
that like left-handers. I remember I trained this kid, and he was a lefty, and so like his belt like was opposite of mine.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you go the certain direction. Yeah, absolutely. Man, that's
And he confused me.
it is
But
a very
That's why a lefty pitcher or something like that is, yeah, it tricks a lot of people up.
As we talked about in the past, you know, I worked for a minor league baseball team, and they always I had a coach tell me once and said, "Man, if you're a left-handed pitcher and you can throw strikes, you'll make a nice career in baseball, just because like it's just not many of you." Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So, as you can see,
Yep.
I am wearing a
Oakland A's
hat from the Oakland A's.
Mm-hmm.
On it, an elephant. Your
Yes.
son's favorite animal.
Indeed.
All right. Do you know why the Oakland Athletics have a mascot of an elephant?
Okay, let me try to talk this out. So I always think of didn't originally like it was like an elephant balancing on a baseball with a bat in its trunk, I think, or something like that. It used to be on the patch on the side.
They've had, yeah.
So then the A's used to be in Philadelphia.
Correct.
So I assume it has something to do with the Philadelphia Circus. That's a guess.
So well, you about got there.
Okay.
Yeah, they were Philadelphia Athletics, and I think it was 1907, 1908, something like that.
Sounds about right.
Okay. The funny thing is about the A's, the Athletics, is they've always been a very, very low budget team. They've
Even in
always
Philadelphia.
been poor.
Yeah.
Yes, back
Yeah,
then.
okay.
In the early 1900s. They've always been quite poor. Well, I think it was like a GM or a new coach or new owner or something. And someone else commented on it and said, "Oh, he's got a white elephant of a team." You know, like a white elephant gift.
Oh,
like
interesting.
crap.
Interesting.
Yeah, you got handed crap, but they kind of wore it with pride and was like, "Okay, we'll show you. We'll be elephants." And yeah, it stuck. So
Interesting.
elephants became their thing. But it's funny that there's been, I mean, literally like century of being cheap. Basically.
Well, do you know why
being the poor team.
It's funny how those names really carry on. Like, do you know why the Dodgers are called the Dodgers?
I don't.
So they were in Brooklyn, and the Ebbets Field where the Dodgers played was right next to the trolley station, and fans had to dodge the trolleys essentially to get to the stadium.
Oh,
so
really?
Essentially, it's like the fans are called the Dodgers. Same way, what you know why the Lakers are called the Lakers? Because they were in Minnesota, which makes total sense. But then you moved to
Land O'Lakes.
Why are the Utah Jazz called the Jazz? Used to be in New Orleans.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
Why keep the stupid name? Like, but yeah, at least the elephant thing,
Right.
at least that still carries on, still being a low budget team.
Well, yeah. I mean, it still does to this day. It's like,
yeah.
I don't get it.
don't get it
They're
either.
like the cheap rent house of baseball teams, but I don't know.
Yep.
All right. How many pro ballparks have you been to? MLB ballparks?
If you count both Texas Rangers stadiums, Globe Life Park, Globe Life Field. So if you count those two, and I've also been to Minute Maid Park in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I think, unfortunately, I think that might be it. I don't think I've been out of those three, just because it's not necessarily that I don't want to go to other ones. It's just that those are the ones that are closer. Obviously, I live in the Dallas area, and it's easy enough to get there. And Houston's not an unreasonable trip to go to.
Right.
So it'd be great to go to anything else, but I've only been to those three.
Yeah. Well, actually, you've got one on me because
You never been to Houston?
No, I've
you've
been
never been to the
Houston.
new one.
I haven't been to the new Rangers one.
Oh, yes.
I haven't been to the new stadium. But no, when I was in college, Yeah, we used to run down and catch Astros game. They were in the World Series when I was down there.
That's
and
right.
everything.
That's
So
right.
it
In
was
2005. Yeah.
Yeah, what they call was that
That was the Killer Bees. The
the Killer Bees. Thank you.
Biggio Bagwell Berkman. Yep.
Yep. All right. What team in the MLB has the best logo / uniform? Whatever you want to call it. Theme,
I hate
colors, whatever.
I hate to say it's the Yankees. Like I don't want to admit it, but it's too clean. It's clean. That NY logo, the pinstripes, it's classic. I mean, those Dodgers blues, the Dodger blue and the whites is pretty crisp. But I mean,
yeah.
I hate to admit that the Yankees have the fashion of that. There's a reason you don't mess with those jerseys. It just works.
Absolutely.
It works.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I have the Nationals have some really nice like alternate jerseys I like. I like the Texas Ranger powder blues are pretty sweet.
Yeah, I like those.
Those are pretty nice. Yeah. And then I'm trying to think if there's.
I like the Royals.
The Royals powder blues are good.
That powder blue, yeah.
I like the Cubs blue jerseys, the dark blue those royal blue jerseys, or the navy blue jerseys.
The Diamondbacks have kind of
going back and
been
forth.
off and on.
Yeah,
sometimes cool, sometimes real not.
And my wife's an Astros fan. You think of the Astros in the '80s, you're just like, oh man, and they really. Exactly.
This color.
Exactly. It looks like that. Yes.
Okay. My wife had a vintage, old school rainbow Astros MLB licensed uniform shirt.
Oh man.
And like at some point she fucking donated it.
Man.
No, she just like gave it to Goodwill or something like that.
No.
I'm like, that fucker would probably be worth
hundreds,
a little something. Like,
yes, like it wouldn't be. You could get something out of it? Yeah. So,
shit, we could sell it to your wife at least.
Exactly, it'd be vintage. Yeah.
All right. Your thoughts on the new pitch clock and the MLB?
I don't hate it so far. It is obviously it's fairly new. It's kind of like they were talking about there's a pitcher for the Astros who he said he's always a really fast guy. He always worked real fast. Like finally this game's coming to me essentially. Like he doesn't have to worry about the pitch clock at all and is flying through these things. I think it's going from 3.5 hours to 3 hours is a fairly reasonable expectation for a sporting event. Like if it's one thing, you're like, okay, we have this pitch clock and games are down 5 minutes. It's like, no, average games are like 26 minutes less. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I think the pitch clock is less of an impact than I do like the wider bases, and they can't throw over so many times. That makes things a little more interesting. And I don't hate it. You have to adapt. Like, like all these things are a part of it. And baseball being slower is not a good thing. It's probably it's the thing that baseball gets dinged on more than anything else.
Yes.
The fact that it's long and slow.
Yeah.
So anything to at least a little bit speed up. It's still the same game. You just have to adjust a little bit. And if you're a major league pitcher, who has to take that long, then maybe that's a problem with you. Like you have to be able to adjust. You're a major league baseball player. So I like it. I like it so far.
Yeah. I watched an interview the other day with John Smoltz.
Yes.
And he said, give it 2, maybe 3 weeks. It'll work the kinks out. Mm-hmm. And he goes,
get used to it.
This will cut maybe 30 minutes off the game. And he goes, that's a lot. And he goes, he felt like it was a positive thing. He was like, just yeah, you just got to work through the infancy of
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
And he goes, I think it will improve the game.
I agree.
So,
yeah, I
yeah.
agree. And if you look at like a game so little behind the music here, but we're recording this way ahead of the actual day we record, and the Rangers won a game today 16-3. You think of a game like that's going to take a long time. The actual time was, let's see here, 3 hours 10 minutes for a game that scored 19 runs. Pretty reasonable. Like usually
it's
a game
pretty
like
efficient.
Really, a game like that, you'd think like 345 or something like that, because of the long innings and lots of pitcher changes and all the rules are coming through and they actually work now. So yeah, I'm excited for the potential of everybody to be like, hey, it's much more accessible.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yep.
Out.
I don't hate the idea.
Yeah, me neither. All right. So you were an announcer for a baseball team. You traveled with the team.
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss it?
Stuff. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where it was so long ago and it's been so long since I've done it. It feels like it wasn't. It's a different life. Like, man,
I know that feeling. Yes.
It's like, man, I can't. It's like I did that for 5 years, and it was. I loved like, even when I hated it, I loved it. Like,
yes,
I was on. I'm on a 14 game road trip, and I'm in Laredo, Texas, at 7 p.m. on July.
Sucks.
It's unpleasant, and I'm sitting there calling a terrible baseball game for a terrible team, sweating terrible. Get back to a terrible hotel, writing stats, and I go to sleep, and I wake up and can't wait to do it again. Like, it's just such a it's such a odd little thing that I had the privilege of doing for as long as I did. But yeah, I miss it. It ended more abruptly than I expected, and I didn't realize how much I missed it as soon as it was gone.
Yeah. It's a grind. I mean, yeah.
I called 298 games in my career, I believe. I think I have the number somewhere. 298 in 5 years. Home, I did home for 3 and then home and away for 2. So, but I mean, some stuff happens in baseball. Minor league baseball.
Man, a lot of stuff happens on the road, period.
Yes. Whenever you're like
throw baseball, alcohol.
Man, it's there's some stuff. Yeah, there's some stuff. Like, yeah. Fun times.
I've seen some shit, man. I've seen some shit. Like,
I've been in. You haven't seen what I've done. Yeah.
Like, I can't hear a hotel room door without having a seizure.
That's funny.
No, well, all right. I think that's all I got for you, Ben. Right. You're free to go.
All right, buddy. Before we go, what is your film rating of Moneyball?
Absolutely love it. Like I said earlier, I feel like this movie is very much like a love letter to baseball.
Yep.
So I would say, like, for me, it's like someone who loves romance movies. This is like The Notebook.
Yes, that's a good way to that's a great way to put it.
But it's for baseball.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's heartwarming. It's nostalgic. I can freaking smell the fresh cut grass. I can feel the spring air. I can hear, like, it gives me the feels.
Yep.
So absolutely love it.
I agree. I have it 5 out of 5. It's my second favorite film of 2011, and I just happen to love the number one film more than anything else. And it's almost unimpeachable. I love Moneyball, and it's one of those, if it's on TV, I'm probably watching it. Can hop in at any point and just sink it in, and it just immediately brings all that right back.
Oh man,
great film. Couldn't recommend enough. Before we go, I want to remind everybody that we are, like we said, we're taking listeners' choice requests for the month of May. Our mom keeps joking with us and giving us further and further out there choices She suggested Dolores Claiborne today, which is a wild.
I don't know. She just texted me actually.
Oh yeah. So I mean, she keeps teasing.
I'm
us
afraid.
I'm afraid too. She keeps teasing us with all these other things. But so if you have a suggestion what you want us to do for the month of May, give us a request what film you want us to cover. Reach out on Twitter at Critic Common Pod and email us at criticcommonmanpod@gmail.com. Give us your pick. Tell us why we choose you. We'll give you a shout out. Promote your stuff as well. That just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic, the Common Man. Thank you so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebIsBen, on Letterboxd at Neb810, and on Instagram at Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, icecreamforfreaks.com. You can follow my other writing on the film experience and cinema scholars. You can also find me on other pods as I'm the David Thewlis of podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you? Working out, I assume, underneath the bottom of Oakland Coliseum during the first inning, right?
No, I would watch the game.
I'd say the same thing too. Like, oh, come on, man, you get free baseball every day. Like,
yeah, no, I'd be in the box seats, man.
Me too, absolutely. It's like be with the people. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter, Critic Common Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. We will catch you guys next time. Thanks so very much for joining us.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?